Tonight, intense jostling among NPP MPs on who becomes running mate to newly elected flag bearer Dr. Bawumia as calls for him to select an MP from the Ashanti region grows.
All the names I've heard are equally good. I know the Lord will decide.
So who the candidate is comfortable with. And secondly, who can help him, who can complement the ticket. And thirdly, is whom the candidate prefers. And for me, I will support whatever the candidate settles on.
More from Parliament, where the NDC says Dr. Bawumia will have no impact in terms of the votes from that border part of the country.
I believe that if it is about a claim to the north, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama has a better claim to the north than Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia.
He's not coming from the northern part of this country more than Mahama.
This is Top Story with Evans Mensah.
And Top Story is always brought to you by Vodafone. Tonight there is intense jostling among New Patriotic Party MPs in Parliament as to who becomes the running mate to the newly elected flag bearer of the party, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. On the first day of sitting following the flag bearership contest this weekend, there has been talks among MPs from the governing party about his choice, with several coalitions forming to back the various names that have so far emerged. And we'll be linking that to what we saw happen over the weekend pretty shortly. Raymond Akwa, with the political desk, head of research desk, also joins me in the studio with that. But I want to take you to Parliament right now, where my colleague Kweku Asante is joining me. And Kweku, so who are some of the names being mentioned in the corridors of Parliament today?
Evans, 4 names standing out currently. The MP for Bensiano and Minister for Energy, Matthew Opoku Prempeh, the Majority Leader himself, Osei Chairman Sabonso, First Deputy Speaker, Joseph Osewusu, as well as Education Minister Dr. Yawase Bichum. These are the names that have come up pretty strongly. And in fact, today, long before Parliament started sitting and the NPP MPs started coming in, seeing each other for the first time since the election happened over the weekend, that was the main talk on the floor. You would see MPs congregate in various groups on the floor of the House, discussing what should happen and what pitch they should make to who and when. In fact, some of the talks we've been hearing are whether or not it is early yet to start piling pressure on Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia to come clear as to who he wants to pick to lead him. And so these are the 4 names that have come up tops from Parliament and from the Ashanti region who are gunning to become Bawumia's running mate into 2024.
And Kweku, we'll talk shortly about MPs who are now going on the record, already beginning to campaign for their own in the Ashanti region very aggressively. We'll also hear from the leadership of the House. You've also been speaking. But the 4 names you mentioned, Raymond joins me now, because the argument we're hearing from Parliament is that there's an argument that Bawumia should look at how these 4 names performed in their various constituencies in the Ashanti region for him in the primary. Let's isolate them. Let's start with Osei Chairman Sabong. So who we know he's not going to contest it again, and many say he's doing so because he was aspiring to become his.
Yes, he was lacing his boots because he has been tipped for so many different occasions by even people in Parliament with the belief that he will transition into a wonderful, what they call it, vice presidential candidate. But in the Swami constituency, he had 511 votes, and that's 56.40% in the just ended primaries.
That doesn't sound to me like a strong showing.
Not
for
as overwhelming as many thought he could do, but let's not forget, he has not been a very popular MP in that constituency. There was some form of a protest against him. His own people actually tried. There was a time that even the minority in Ghana's parliament had to go help him before he could maintain his seat in Parliament. You remember those times?
He was literally chased out of his own
he's not a very popular MP. One of the reasons why he's trying to leave the House. But he did 56% for Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. So that was his showing. Let's move on to the Menchia South Member of Parliament and the Energy Minister, Matthew Opoku Prempeh. He actually had an 85.5% showing.
Very dominant.
Some 478 votes. That is huge. He got more votes for Dr. Bawumia than he got in the general picture. So his 60% is below the constituency percentage that he actually got for him there. That's 85.5%. And when we move on to Joseph Oseosu, first Deputy Speaker of Parliament in the Bekwai constituency, he also did pretty well, 71.9%, almost 72%, and that was like 725 votes in the Bekwai constituency. He and the people supporting him believes that, mindful of what people have said about Joe Oseosu before, and let's not get it wrong, this is a man who went independent before becoming the Member of Parliament for that particular area. It's a good showing that should be considered, and that's what he did. Now, Yao Oseoduchum Imbosumche had 60.2%. And even though that's better than the majority leader's own, many would have expected that if you really want to deliver, your percentage should be a par or way better than what the candidate got, which is Dr. Bawumia's own.
And the reason why this is important is Bawumia will need the Ashanti region to turn out in their numbers to vote for them. And we saw his performance there. It wasn't the dominant performance in the stronghold. So he needs somebody who will complement him, who will get the numbers out, who would influence the votes there. And that's why these four names have come up strongly on the floor of Parliament. And so, of course, if you're judging their strength, you're looking at the ability to convince the party's delegates to galvanize that base, to show up in their numbers. If you cannot galvanize your own base, you're in trouble in the elections, right? So you look at Matthew Opoku Prempeh, for example, with his 85.5% in his constituency for Dr. Bawumia in the primary, and many people will say, just looking at the sheer numbers, he seemed to have done better than almost all the other individuals named.
You know, yes, of the list, even prior to the primaries, Matthew Opoku Prempeh had been a front runner. If you ask some MPs in Parliament, there are MPs in Parliament today in the Ashanti region who he basically sponsored or who is mentees for a very long time, and he has that controlling power, not least because of the connection with Menchia, not least because he has been seen as coming from a Pejahinifi and all of the other things that would make the Ashanti votes rally around him. But he's worked so well in the region as a major force now that it's almost impossible to ignore him.
And Kweku is still with me. Kweku, you managed to speak to one of the persons tipped, and in the list we just went through, the first Deputy Speaker. What did he tell you?
Yes, the Deputy Speaker, right after he had presided over the House and going through the Speaker's lobby to his office, I waved at him, tried to shove my mic at him, try and ask him what is going on with that. I asked him, his name has come up strongly. He told me those are just rumors, while smiling and walking into the lobby. I also tried to do the same with Osechi Mensah-Bonsu, who had also been on the floor earlier on when he was leaving. He also just smiled and waved away. He did not respond. Of course, Matthew Opoku Prempeh was not in the House today. Dr. Oseduchum was also not in the House. But those two persons, whose names have all come up quite strongly, just waved at me and said, these are just rumors, and they just went on.
And Kweku, there are other MPs who are not hiding the fact that for them, Dr. Bawumia must ensure that whoever he selects is a person from the Ashanti region. You've been speaking to the Kwadaso MP, and he's been very direct about this.
Yes, Professor Kingsley Nyako actually tells me about the names that we have just discussed. He says that he believes all of them are quite competent enough to partner Dr. Bawumia into the next election. But he goes on to say that if you look at the results that came in from the Ashanti region and how the MPs showed Dr. Bawumia love in his own words, he believes that the call for Dr. Bawumia to pick someone from the Ashanti region is strong and should not be done away with.
Has to do that in connotation the National Council. If anybody says that the running mate should come from the Ashanti region, and I think that I'm in agreement to that. It's not because I'm a member of parliament from the region, and I think that the region holds a key to the electoral fortune of the New Patriotic Party. There are a lot of competent personalities from the region. So I don't think that it is out of place to get someone from there. I mean, he can decide to choose the running mate from any other region, but strategically, from the Ashanti region, I think that it will be a step in the right direction. Don't forget that at the Superdelegate Conference, we had about 7 of the aspirants coming from the region, but the region showed him love, especially the members of parliament showed him love, and he got 82% from the region. You know what I mean? So for me, I think that it's a call in the right direction, but eventually he decides, and per his judgment, nobody will question his judgment. But I think that at the back of his mind, he understands the politics, and he knows that there are a lot of capable persons in the Ashanti region who can partner him to execute a very successful campaign during the 2024 campaign and election. So for me, I would support any call by anybody to consider, for him to consider that.
And Kweku, the minority chief whip has also been speaking about this, and also the Lands and Natural Resources Minister also. They are urging calm a bit. They want people to just hold their horses and give Bawumia the room to make a decision.
Yes, I put the names that we just discussed to the majority chief whip, Frank Anodompre, and he said that he believes that all of them are competent enough to partner Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, but that choice should ultimately rest with the vice president, who is not the flag bearer. On the part of the lands minister, Samuel Abujinapo, however, he says he lists a certain criteria that he believes Dr. Bawumia is currently looking at, and ultimately he will make that choice, and the people in the party will rally with it.
Monday to determine who becomes the running mate. I think it's the exclusive decision of the flag bearer in consultation with the National Council, and that has been the tradition, and I want to respect that. Yes.
The boss is in the running.
Who is that?
Whose name has come up.
The
speaker.
Well, I think they're all good guys, and all the names I've heard are equally good. But I know the Lord will decide. Yes.
Before you go, a number of names have come up for running mates. Who are you backing? Napo, the majority leader, the deputy speaker. Are you backing any of them?
First of all, is who. First consideration is whom the candidate is comfortable with, because remember, the candidate is going to work with this this presidential candidate, God willing, by the grace of God and with the support of the Ghanaian people. If he is elected, the person he selects as running mate will become vice president. Like the Americans say, your vice president, you must be able to leave your coffee with him and go to sleep. As President Akufo-Addo will be able to leave his coffee with Vice President Bawumia. So that's where we begin from. So who the candidate is comfortable with. And secondly, who can help him, who can complement the ticket and make his victory much easier than it would have been. And thirdly, is whom the candidate prefers. And for me, I will support whatever the candidate settles on.
Raymond, we focus on the names from the Ashanti region, but there are 2 additional names in the Greater Accra region also making a case for this.
Yes, the Chief of Staff, Freeman Osel Parry, has been actually tipped to be one of those interested or being pushed for this particular position. Now, it's a dicey one because she's currently not Member of Parliament, but she was the Member of Parliament for Ayawaso West Wuogon. Of course, one of the most successful on the NPP's ticket at the time. In Ayawaso West Wuogon, Dr. Bawumia lost to Kennedy Japan. Dr. Bawumia had 46%. So if you are tying her fortunes to that one, 46% appears not to be a very, very wonderful showing for Dr. Bawumia. 226 was it. Now, there are those who have extended the argument that why are we connecting her to the constituency she is currently supposed to be? Why not her hometown? So she's from Biamuasi in the Ashanti region, which is in the Fijanseche East District constituency. In that constituency, the Dr. Bawumia actually won with 62%. So when the argument is posited that it's 46% that should be tied to her people, make the counter argument that go to her hometown where she still holds some sway, even though people believe that it's Ayawasu West Wogon, that should be the case. So 62% in her hometown, then 46% in the place she was previously member of parliament. That's for the chief of staff. Of course, 46% is a poor showing. 62% is within the range of not so much the Matupoku Prempes of the era, but I mean it's quite appreciable too. Now, when we look at Eslo Owusu barely made it through with 52% in the Ablekuma West constituency. Now, let's put in proper perspective. Esla is a member of parliament. She's also the Minister for Communications. If Eslo Owusu's chances are tied in any way to the very constituency and the votes they gave Dr. Bawumia, the 52% is not so much of a good showing. And there are some who are saying that your popularity shows, and that whoever defends Bawumia on the grounds, it reflects in the votes that people give the person. And the election more reflects what you have done on the ground. In fact, there are some who said if this was like the NDC's election where the parliamentary and the presidential happened predominantly on the same day, some of these members of parliament would have lost their seats. and 52% appears to be a narrow escape anyway.
And you talked about the chief of staff. He gave a brief response to this recently, and he says, wherever you've heard that I'm in the running mate or I've been considered, he said, I thank them, but I have not heard that yet. So she's waiting to hear officially. I want to bring in Samuel Uku. He's a leading member of the vice president's campaign team. Obviously, they won that particular race. The vice president has now been elected flag bearer of the party. Guess who else is joining us? Nanobi Bwai, who is a former deputy general secretary of the party. He has some experience. He played a very critical role back then when the particular running mate was being considered. I want to bring them both in right now. I believe I may have lost one of them on the telephone line right now. Let's bring in Samuel, who is with me. Hello, Mr. Oku. Thanks for your time here on Top Story.
Thank you, Evan.
He's the vice president. Of course, it's just a third day after he won that victory on Saturday. Is he feeling the pressure yet? Pressure to select a running mate?
Well, let me say a very good evening to your cherished listeners. And you're having an interesting discussion there. And I'm not too sure where this discussion is originating from. Nonetheless, we appreciate the fact that there's so much excitement around who you will eventually select. For now, let me issue a disclaimer. The Vice President has not discussed with any member of his team, of his inner team, or bigger team about his choice that he will be recommending to the National Council. What is on his mind now is how to assist the party, go through the motion, sort out the issue of the selection or election of parliamentary candidates for the orphan constituency, and then also have a look at, take a keen interest in the district assembly election, and then politically again, look at how we can get MPs for where we have sitting members of parliament. So we haven't had any discussion, and I'm not too sure that it's something that he is in a rush to do. There are two things about him, and two things will come to play when it comes to him. He's extremely analytical, and secondly, he consults broadly. So he'll be taking the views of people he knows when he is ready, and then also analyze the situation well. He has his strengths, he has his weaknesses. So whoever you also choose him must complement where you fall short. And I think when the time comes, knowing him very well, you'll pick the right marble. But for now, he hasn't discussed it with any of us around him. He hasn't also discussed with the campaign team in general. That's all I can say.
In Parliament today, the Kwadaso MP, for example, was clear that that whoever that individual is, and whenever time it comes to considering it, that person must come from the Ashanti region. One, because it's your stronghold, and you need somebody to assist him there, galvanize that base. What do you make of that?
Well, analysis? I think it's persuasive. So all the various thinking and thought processes will come to play, and I'm sure when the right arguments are made. The good thing is the MPs have so many assets, so many talents. Definitely, whoever is also selected will have to be somebody who is ingrained in the party, somebody who also is also appreciated by the party. and the person who can also help keep the momentum up as far as the rank and file of our party is concerned.
Stay with me. Aubrey.
Evans, I'm unable to
Oh,
stay with
okay.
Let's take everything I want to say. I have said.
No problem. But that seems I still have it with you then. I know Dr. Bawumia is the third day. It's as you say, he's going around, and his focus is to try and get the MPs process concluded already. Yes. But I'm very sure, Sammy, and you are a very astute politician. You definitely would have noticed the jostling already happening today. For example, in the newspapers, at least I can count at least 5 front pages where the flag bearer conversation has already begun. In fact, stories that look like in the running mate conversation, yes. And you see stories about a particular MP who has been accused of lying to delegates. Clearly, this is happening, and you must have noticed this.
Unfortunately, I haven't read the dailies today. I was in Ivory Coast. I just got back.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sammy. Thank you very much. And Raymond, that is an important point, is it not? We woke up this morning and at least the front page is 5 of the papers.
So the justice
had the same story.
Yes, and
about the setting member of parliament
who spent some time in the US and all of that. I mean, at the risk of actually repeating some of the things that were said, which appeared to be not so palatable about this member of parliament, it's a clear-cut indication
and the thing is that it was in the MPP aligned papers.
Yes, basically all of them. In all fairness,
and on the front page.
Yeah. And the stories are very almost the same anyway.
Same headline, same text.
It's quite clear people are positioning themselves. And it is a competition, right? So people will do a lot of things to catch the eye of the gentleman, including Matt Sling and others, and clearly showing you why they are not more qualified. So if I'm able to rule you out, then I'll be I'll be in a better position and a better candidate to run.
And everybody, thanks for the time here on Top Story. Surprised that it's beginning this early, 3 days after the man was elected?
Well, it's a human institution. So why should we be surprised about this? The flag bearer has been elected. So obviously people will be jostling for the vice president position. So I'm not surprised at all.
You've had the consideration that one of the first considerations that have been thrown up today in Parliament is that Bawumia must pay attention to how these individuals who have been tipped, how they performed in their constituencies in the primary for him. And then secondly, the Ashanti regional factor cannot be ignored. That person must come from there. What are your thoughts on this?
Look, the tradition is that it is not the flag bearer himself who selects his running mate. He may put out some names. He may consider a particular person. But the boss stops at the doorstep of the NEC and the National Council. The NEC and the National Council. So if you look at this tradition very well, in 1979, the PFP and the UN, those who were considered for the vice president position, it wasn't Pawili on his own volition selected his running. It was not Vitosu on his own volition. The conglomeration of factors that came to play that ended in the selection of the various running mates. Now, fast forward, 1992, Adubuahin. It wasn't Adubuahin as an individual who selected his running mate. But the leadership, Adubuahin may put out some names. Then the leadership will meet in caucus. Then they will consider instances about where, when we are talking about this tradition, the particular flag bearer candidate, which he brought to the attention of the NEC, was refused. There were a lot of instances. In 2000, Ali Mahama, Midra, everybody did give him a dog chance. But eventually he was settled upon as the running mate.
You've just indicated that you have history where the flag bearer brings a candidate and the candidate is rejected.
So I said that possibility is there. That possibility is there. I am telling you on authority. Then come to think of Manado, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. After Legon, December 2007, some names started A to B, A to B, to B, C. Then, out of the blue, Dr. Bawumia's name came out. So when you are dealing with a party like the New Patriotic Party, it's not an individual who selects a running mate. There are a lot of factors.
But it's realistic and reasonable to expect that he will have the final say. I mean, in the end, he will have to work with the person directly.
Obviously, yes. Obviously, it is also possible that in certain of one particular candidate, the NEC and the National Council will refuse that selection. Then you are bound to change your position. It is also possible. So up to who will be the running mate? I mean, it's too early for me to talk about that.
I know you say it's too early.
People want to occupy the political space. People will be just looking for positions. But as far as this tradition is concerned, we can go back to the 1947, then the Congress Party in the 1950s. 1969, after 1969, it was a parliamentary system.
Well, Mr. Riwa, you were an integral part of the Bawumia campaign as a former General Secretary, and you come from the Bonahafo region, of course, the Prima Bonahafo region. Do you agree that the candidate, whoever he selects, must come from the Ashanti region?
Oh, certainly no.
Certainly no?
We should allow Bawumia to do his homework. Just that the running mate should not come from the northeast. Just that the running mate should not come from northeast. No, Dr. Bawumia comes from northeast. And just that the running mate should not come from northeast. That is all.
Okay. Dr. Sasante is a senior political science lecturer at the University of Ghana Political Science Department. Joins us now. Doc, where do you stand on this?
Good evening, Evans, and good evening to your listeners. I believe that the call is good now. The conversation has started on time. But some of the standards people are talking about is going to be used to select the person. If indeed that is the case, then I'm afraid it's going to be problematic that they are looking at, yes, Ashanti region. I am for that. I believe that strategically it is good to have running mate from Ashanti. If you look at it against the backdrop that Ashanti brings in a lot of votes, you really give people more opportunity to express themselves, come out in their numbers and come and support the party. So if the candidate comes from there, fine. But if you go by the performance, if you look at it, anywhere the person performed very well, that is where Dr. Bawumia performed very well in the last election. Sorry, their recent election. Then you are going to look at it. Then I ask you, strategically, will it be a wise thing? Because you can come from a place which is, very small constituency. They don't have the numbers and all that. And the person scores very high. Are you going to pull the person from that place? It will not work. They even come home, Ashanti region. You want to pick people based on the performance that you have seen in the election in that area. If you rely on that, you are going to deceive yourself, because somebody can score so high, but at the end of the day, he will not be able to pull a lot of people along with the party so as to, win its mandate 2024. So it's a whole lot of factors that are considered. But if you go on even that tangent, you are not fair to the people themselves. Are they chairmen or, the head of the region who conducts these processes to make sure that people vote one line or another? That's unfair. And so that analysis, I believe that if that is what they want to go by, and I'm afraid you are going to pick a candidate who at the end of the day everybody will gang up against and say that, well, they've selected you, go out there and campaign and let's see. So I believe in matters of this nature, research would do. By now, I'm sure, being a party in government, they have done all their research to know the right person to pick so as to deliver the numbers for them.
Dr. Sasante, thank you very much. Newsnight starts right now.